I, 34 male, am a lead developer on a team of mid-sized SaaS company that is around 100 or so employees. Basically, we are large enough that there are employees we can see, recognize, but not necessarily know their names. Recently, we had a new hire, Krista 33F, who joined the PM part of the project I'm working on. I have a history with Krista from college. In college I was a lot more in my own shell, I didn't really treat myself well, and was very much the introverted nerd, down to bad posture and poor fashion sense. Krista, she did have quite a few friends in college, but at least in my view she wasn't super popular, but she was well liked and was conventionally attractive. We shared a few classes together and one day asked me for some help on an assignment. I helped her on it and we talked, and from the sound of things, she seemed genuinely friendly to me. I helped her on a few more assignments and finally she asked me if I wanted to meet her after class at a coffee shop and talk. I said sure, and when I got there, Krista was nowhere in sight. I waited about 20 minutes before I called her. She answered and started laughing, and I heard several other voices laughing, Krista saying something like, "Why would I want to date a fat loser like you?" Looked out the front window of the shop and saw one of Krista's friends holding up her camera phone and it looked like she was recording. Next few weeks there were jokes about me, flyers with my face from the coffee shop vid plastered up with creep in bold letters on top. Kept my head down, and within a month the next big thing popped up on campus and I was forgotten. Didn't stop Krista and her friends from going ew. Creep. When they saw me, but I guess for the rest of the campus it got old, so I never got accused of anything, or even really ostracized by the rest of the student body. After GE, I did learn about self-care a bit better, plus I usually am with other programmers so I really don't stand out as a social outcast. When Krista was introduced to our team, I don't think she recognized me, and it's only been a week, but I want to know if bringing up the college incident is even worth it for HR. Most of my rational brain really wants to just let this go, treat Krista as a new person, and get on with me, but I have a small fear that she might tell a skewed version of the college events and sour the team I'm on against me, so I should at least disclose to HR so in case she does start telling tales I have recourse. Update 1. Yesterday some things happened, some bad, mostly good. There were mixed responses, most telling me to tell, but one HR professional saying I shouldn't. Due to the mixed messaging, I did consult a local employment lawyer. The lawyer told me that I should make HR aware of the past I have with Krista, but make it clear that there was never anything disciplinary acted upon me in college. He asked if my job had a copy of my transcript, and I verified that it did. Lawyer asked if there were any third parties that would verify the harassment and see if I could get their names and contact details if needed. I knew 2 people back in college that I still had on my LinkedIn and was certain they would tell the truth, so we were good there. Lawyer told me to just request a meeting with HR and my supervisor, say there was a past with Krista, there was never any charges or disciplinary action, and I have 2 witnesses if they ever need verification. So that was what I did. Friday morning I came into the office and sent HR and my supervisor an email requesting a formal meeting at 10 a.m. My supervisor came to my desk and asked if everything was okay, and wanted to make sure I was happy. I told him everything was fine, I wasn't leaving, and it wasn't anything with him or the team. He seemed relieved and by 10 a.m., we rolled into the conference room with the HR officer. I thanked them both for taking time out of their day to meet me, and then I did as my lawyer instructed. I said that the new project manager, Krista, was someone I went to college with, she participated in harassment of me in college, detailed how I never had any charges or disciplinary action, and that I had 2 independent witnesses that saw the harassment and gave their contact info. My supervisor seemed shocked and the HR officer went through the info I gave her for a minute and then the 2 of them talked for a minute. Finally, Krista was called in. When Krista walked into the conference room and saw me, HR, and the team's supervisor, she seemed shocked. HR started with something like, "We have been told you 2 have a past." Krista sat down and looked pretty shocked throughout. She did admit to the bullying, but tried to reframe it as a misunderstanding repeatedly. She never outright said what the bullying was, but then she was told that since this was an incident in both our pasts that nobody once brought up again, that it should stay dead. HR made it clear that this is not to be a funny watercooler story to share. Krista and I both agreed to that, but Krista still looked shaken. Noon was coming up right when the meeting was wrapping up. My supervisor and HR again reiterated, neither of us is to breathe a word about the college incident. We're professionals, and we're here to do a job. I went to the break room for lunch, and actually I felt like my appetite has finally returned. The last few days were stress-starving me, to be honest. I sat at a table with the rest of the development team and we started eating. Halfway through my sandwich, another coworker, Sandy 30F, came by and said, "So I heard an interesting story yesterday about you and Krista," with a big grin on her face. She didn't get further because my supervisor was at our table, stood up, pointed at Sandy, and across the room at Krista and said, "You too." Conference room. Now, I wasn't privy to what happened in the conference room, but I did see the HR officer go into the room 2 minutes later, looking pretty pissed and with a mustard stain on her shirt. I guess she got the call and was interrupted during lunch. Not sure what went on. The rest of my team asked what that was. I said I have no idea and just kept eating. 5 minutes later, 2 more coworkers on other parts of the project were brought into the conference room. Lunch ended and we went back to work, but speculation was high. It wasn't until 3 that the conference room finally emptied. Krista looked like she was crying and the others that were in the room with her seemed to treat her quite coldly. Not sure what this will mean, but it appears for now, Krista is still working here. But I appreciate the lengths HR and my supervisor are taking to ensure this won't blow up further. Update 2. Monday wasn't a shit show, so that was good. My supervisor and the HR officer did bring everyone on the team into the big conference room, for the HR officer said that we are a professional company, and while we do like to have fun, there are company outings like golf, bowling, main event, we are to be strictly professional and not gossip about other coworkers' personal lives. Sandy and the 2 other coworkers who were brought into the conference room Friday looked pretty ashamed during this. Krista was sitting at the other end of the conference room table and there seemed to be a noticeable distance between her and the other employees. My supervisor said he wants to consider this matter closed and for us to get back to offering great solutions to our clients. Everyone filed out of the conference room and went back to work. Lunch on Monday was pretty tense, but Tuesday management had a local Mexican place bring in a Taco Tuesday for us, and the mood improved considerably. I don't gossip, but I did hear murmurs that Krista is now on her final warning and put on a performance improvement plan, within her first 2 weeks. Not sure how true these rumors are, but with how isolated Krista now appears to be to the rest of the team, it is clear that everyone else is not willing to socialize with her beyond their work functions. I considered this matter closed myself, and if Krista worked hard and got her redemption arc, I'd have been fine with it. But then last night happened. Not sure where Krista got my address, but she was outside my house last night, and luckily my doorbell camera caught it, so I can pretty accurately transcribe it. She rung and asked if we could talk. I said through the digital doorbell there was nothing to talk about, and she better leave because this is now harassment. She pleaded for me to come outside and discuss it. I declined and emphasized she's not welcome. She then said she had a crush on me in college, that her friends found out she asked me to coffee and pressured her to turn it into a harassment campaign, and she was afraid of them disowning her for liking a guy like me. Guys, I wanted to laugh so fucking hard. I was socially awkward back in college, but even I knew this was bullshit. Hell, I wasn't even interested in Krista for a date, I thought she wanted to be my friend. I told her that I didn't care what she has to say, she has to leave. She told me I could just ask Sandy what she told her and it would clear this all up. I declined and said that this matter in the office is closed. Krista finally made an exaggerated sigh and walked off. I took the video recording from the doorbell and sent it to the employment lawyer and will give it to my supervisor in HR today. I will be shocked if she will last longer than this Friday now. Update 3. Krista is fired. I didn't even have to send HR the doorbell cam vid, but I did send it to the lawyer I was talking to. Lawyer is drafting a cease and desist and potentially a restraining order if needed. Krista somehow got my address from someone in IT. The IT new hire is suspended because of this data breach, and everyone got a memo about data security yesterday morning, including the usual about phishing scams. Krista's desk was empty when I came in yesterday morning, and since I'm taking the necessary legal steps, I'm considering this matter closed. Update 4. First of all, Krista's firing wasn't just the end of her time here, it seemed to serve as a wake-up call to the entire company. The HR department has been a lot more diligent about enforcing workplace boundaries and privacy since everything went down. I guess they realized that, even though they handled the situation swiftly, the lack of attention to small behaviors in the office culture might have been a bigger issue than they initially thought. Several people, including my supervisor, came up to me privately to say that they were impressed with how I handled things, staying calm, professional, and not letting my past with Krista define my behavior at work. Honestly, that felt good to hear. I wasn't looking for praise, but after everything that happened, it felt validating. As for Krista's departure, I didn't really get the full details at first. I heard through some whispers in the office that, while Krista's performance was always a concern, it was her unprofessional behavior after the HR meeting that sealed the deal. Apparently, she started emailing some of the team members late at night, sending long, rambling messages about how misunderstood she was, about the college incident, and even trying to guilt-trip some people into helping her fix this. That behavior didn't fly with HR or my supervisor at all. They said it was a blatant violation of company policy, and it took no time for them to decide that her continued presence on the team was untenable. Now, the fallout for the rest of the office has been pretty interesting. I know Sandy and the others who were involved in gossiping about Krista and me during that whole fiasco were called into another round of meetings, though none of them have been as dramatic as the first. They all seem to have learned their lesson, as there hasn't been any more chatter or inappropriate behavior about the situation. Everyone's been a lot quieter around me, which is a relief. There's no more awkward tension, no snide comments, just a bunch of colleagues doing their jobs and staying out of each other's personal lives. The office feels, well, normal again. On my end, I'm back to focusing on the work, which has been a welcome distraction. There's a lot of exciting projects on the horizon, and it's nice to finally be able to just focus on that instead of dealing with all the drama. I've made it clear to HR that I'm not interested in discussing the past any more than I already have, and thankfully, that's been respected. Everyone else seems to feel the same way. There's been no weird questioning or extra curiosity about my past with Krista. The craziest thing, though? The lawyer I'm working with suggested that, given how everything unfolded, I may have some grounds for a civil suit against Krista for harassment and emotional distress. He said that, while I have no desire to make this more public, there could be potential damages for the emotional toll, especially considering the harassment back in college and the more recent incidents with her stalking me at my house. At first, I was hesitant because I really just want this whole chapter of my life closed, but I've started to think about it more seriously. The legal system is a funny thing. It could serve as a way to prevent this from happening to anyone else in the future, you know? I haven't decided yet if I'm going to pursue that, but I'm leaning toward just letting it go. The whole ordeal has taken up enough mental bandwidth for me, and I think I'm ready to leave it behind. I also want to mention something else that's been bugging me a bit. After Krista's firing, the IT department launched an internal investigation into how she managed to get my personal information. Apparently, the new IT hire wasn't the only one involved in the data breach. It turns out there was a much larger issue at play. A small group of employees had been misusing company resources to access confidential information about their coworkers. It wasn't widespread, but enough people were involved to make HR take action. The employees involved were promptly let go, and there's been some restructuring in the IT department to ensure something like that never happens again. The breach was more than just Krista's actions, it was a failure of trust within a department that's supposed to maintain confidentiality. And frankly, I feel uncomfortable knowing that it wasn't just Krista who went rogue. It's unsettling to think about how easy it could have been for someone else to get my personal information or worse, anyone else's. The company sent out a company-wide email apologizing for the breach and assuring everyone that new security measures were being put into place. But still, I'll admit I feel a little exposed now, especially since it was someone within IT who compromised my data. Now on to second story. Girlfriend kept complaining about her weight without trying to change, snapped at me for controlling her, then fled crying after I lost patience. My 32 male girlfriend Lana, 32F, and I have been together for 3 years. Ever since we met she has been overweight, and over the course of our relationship has gained even more weight. Her weight has never bothered me though. She was beautiful when I first met her, and she still is beautiful today. About 6 months ago though, Lana went for a checkup with her doctor, who expressed concern about her weight. He said that she should ideally be looking to lose around 40 pounds to get back to a healthy weight. At first I offered Lana to help with this weight loss, as I had lost about 70 pounds a number of years back before meeting her, and knew what sort of diet and exercise worked for me. She initially declined, saying yes, he wanted to try herself, but after a month of trying she wasn't able to lose any weight, so she then asked if I could help her. So I found my old fitness tracker watch so she could track exercise. I also sent her my old spreadsheet that I used to track meals so she could get an idea of her calorie intake. We started walking together each day, preparing healthy meals together, and I felt it brought us closer together. After 2 months of this, she had lost 15 pounds, and I was really proud of her. After this though, she started to get back into old habits. She started declining when I asked if she wanted to go for a walk. I noticed she stopped using the watch, and was no longer entering her meals into the spreadsheet in the evenings. Even though we still prepped meals together, she started snacking a lot between meals, saying that she felt hungry. I asked a few times how things were going, and she said that she didn't want to use the spreadsheet anymore, because she knew what she was doing and it was my way of controlling what she ate. I took a bit of offense to this, as I had given her the spreadsheet on her own laptop so she could help herself, and it had been working. Also I don't have access to her laptop, and I never asked to see it, nor did I ever put her down for what she ate. Before long, she was back at her previous weight, then even put on an additional 10 pounds. She started to complain about it constantly, and shut down any effort I made to help her, again, because I was trying to control her. She even commented to my friends at a dinner that I was trying to stop her from eating all the things she loves, which was not true at all. After that comment, I decided to just stop trying. Every day the complaints kept going. There was always some old item of clothing that no longer fit her. She complained about needing to buy new clothes. She'd always point at her stomach and say, "Oh look how fat I'm getting." She'd complain that she didn't feel beautiful. She'd say she couldn't walk small distances because she was out of breath because she's too fat to walk. She'd complain that she felt sick because she ate too much. She'd complain about not wanting to swim in public because she was embarrassed of her body. On, and on, and on she went. Yesterday we were getting dressed to go to my parents' house for dinner. She pulled out a shirt I bought her a few months prior, and said, "Oh, I bet this won't fit me." She then tried it on and said, "Yeah, see, I'm too fat for this now. Look how big my stomach is. People will judge me. Blah blah blah." I just lost it, and said to her, "Will you shut up about your ing stomach? I don't want to hear another word about how fat you are, until you actually try to do something about it." She burst into tears. Not saying anything to me, she grabbed another shirt, then ran out of the house and drove off in my car. I didn't know where she went or when she'd be back, but I didn't care. I was sick of hearing about it. Since we only have the one car, I called my parents to let them know we wouldn't make it to dinner. I just stayed home and ordered a pizza. About an hour later, I got a call from my mom, saying that Lana had showed up in tears, and told her about what I said. My mum said I knew she was sensitive about her weight, and demanded that I apologize to her. I firmly said that I wouldn't be apologizing, but if she wants to talk, she can come home and talk. My dad also called, again saying that I was a jerk and needed to apologize, but I stood my ground. As far as I know, Lana stayed at my parents' last night. She hasn't contacted me, I haven't attempted to contact her, and don't intend to until she comes back home. Even now a day later, I don't regret what I said, and don't think I was in the wrong. Though my parents taking her side is making me second guess a little. Am I the asshole? Update 1. Lana had lied to my parents, saying that I said she was too fat and that she had been trying hard to lose weight, but that I was refusing to do anything to help her. All of that was of course untrue. After reading all the comments, thanks for all the advice, I decided that I wouldn't be apologizing for what I said, but I was willing to discuss the issue with her, instead of immediately breaking up like some suggested, even though I know she really crossed a line by lying to my parents. I think some people were under the impression that I screamed at her. This wasn't the case. I did snap, but when I said what I did I barely raised my voice. If I had screamed at her, I would apologize. It got to yesterday evening and Lana had still not returned home. Realizing that I actually needed my car the following morning, I got my friend Mark to drive me to my parents' house. I called Lana 3 times, but she didn't answer. Instead I sent her a text, saying that I wanted to talk, and that I'd come by my parents' place soon. Turns out this was a mistake. When we arrived my car was nowhere to be seen and my mum said that Lana had left about 10 minutes ago. I called twice again and no answer. I was in the middle of texting her that if she didn't return my car, I'd be calling the police, when I got a notification from my doorbell camera. She was back at home, and my car was back in the driveway. All was good, or so I thought. Mark drove me back home, but when I tried to get back inside, Lana had put on the inner latch on the door, so I was locked out. After a few minutes of calling out to her to let me in, all I heard from her was fuck off. Now I was done. There would be no calm conversation, we were done. Thankfully I was able to climb over the back fence, didn't think I'd make it in the shape I'm in, and get in through the back door. Once inside I told her that she had until that evening to get out. At the time she didn't even protest. She just packed a bag and a friend picked her up an hour later. This morning she has tried calling multiple times. She's now messaging that she's sorry and wants to talk, but I'm not interested. I messaged her that I've packed all her stuff and she can get a friend to come and get it, or I'll put it outside for her to pick up, but she won't be getting in my house again. Now I'll be staying home until I can get the locks changed. I've got a financial agreement in place with her, so she's got no claim on the house or any of my property, so this should be the end of it.